Senator Shaheen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary DeVos, as I'm sure you're aware, first-generation college students and those who come from lower-income families face unique challenges when they get to college. First, in trying to get there, and then in succeeding when they get there. Two of the programs that have good data to show how successful they have been are the TRIO program and Gear Up. So I'm very concerned about your proposal to eliminate funding, all funding for Gear Up next year, and to make significant cuts to the TRIO program, including eliminating the very successful student support services. Yesterday, I had a group of TRIO folks in my office, students who had gone through the program. And one young woman I met yesterday, a woman named Ashley Dukas, who was from Rochester, New Hampshire, credits TRIO's Educational Talent Search program as the reason that she was able to go to college. She's the first generation in her family to graduate. She said, I never even thought college was an option until I was engaged with the TRIO program. She went to the University of New Hampshire. She's graduated. She said that student support services helped her to succeed there. She has begun to participate in TRIO's McNair program. It allowed her to go to graduate school to study psychology. She is now out, beginning her career as a psychologist, and is counseling 9/11 first responders. And she says without TRIO, she never would have been able to achieve any of this success. So do you believe, I'd like for you to explain, if you would, the proposal to cut so much of TRIO's funding. And I would also ask if you believe that at the federal level we should provide any help to low-income or first-generation students to help them succeed in higher ed.
Senator, thanks for that question. And let me just begin by saying I believe that we do in many ways support first-generation students, and I am totally with you on the need to ensure that they have opportunities. If I could just comment to your specific question around Gear Up and TRIO. Gear Up, we have proposed that Gear Up be folded into TRIO, essentially. They're very similar activities, similar programs, and that the program be consolidated into a state formula-funded program rather than the current competitive grant program that we have, because we have 90 to 95% of those grants that go to the same institutions time after time, and in fact are not necessarily targeted at helping the most needy students. And so our proposal would suggest that states that are closer to the students they're serving would be able to better target those resources and would save administrative costs in the process, and that's what we've put forward as the proposal.
But you're cutting both of those programs significantly as part of doing that.
Well, and
are you not?
As I said earlier, we had to make decisions as part of this budget. We were constrained in the total budget. We were insistent on holding some of the most broad and largest programs harmless and steady, so that we could serve the most students.
I think, however, those kinds of cuts ultimately undermine what the department is trying to achieve by helping those students, particularly those who come from lower income families, those students who are first generation in their families to go to college, who have more difficulty succeeding. I want to go on to student loan debt, because in New Hampshire we have the second highest student loan debt burden in the country. And our office heard from a woman named Valerie, who's a teacher in Lee, New Hampshire, and she said, I've been repaying my student loan since 2002. And what I've learned is that debt begets debt. This debt has caused me to acquire higher interest rates for loans and credit cards. And the first 5 years of my career, I struggled to support myself. She goes on to say that because of all of the challenges of that student loan debt and her the current salaries for teachers, that she's not been able to improve her financial scenario. And you and Senator Langford, your exchange about the amount of student loan debt that is currently out there is devastating. We're hearing from people in the real estate community, people across New Hampshire, that the amount of student loan debt is affecting young people's ability to marry, when they want to get the job they want to have kids when they want to buy a home when they want to. And so given all of that, I don't understand how the elimination of key college affordability programs is going to help us address the student loan debt burden.
Good questions, and a concern that we share. We want students that most need to be able to access higher ed to do so, and I'm really enthused about some of the efforts we have underway through federal student aid to bring the whole framework and experience around federal student aid into the 21st century, and to give students many more tools in being able to research and consider their path, their opportunities, to be able to know what they're likely to be able to earn through a specific program at a specific institution, to make comparisons, to give them a lot more tools to be financially literate about the debt that they're taking on and what those implications are for the longer term. And that's one way that we can begin to help them become better consumers, and then in the process to have an experience with FAFSA, with federal student aid, that is much more consumer-friendly and much more world-class in its orientation.
Well, thank you. I think what my constituents need is help with that debt burden, not more options. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.